Alexandra, so many emotions right now. First of all, no one wants to have to play against an injured player. I am sure your heart is breaking for Coco right now.
Yes. First and foremost, I want to say Happy Women's Day, everybody. Bear with me because I have a lot to say. I want to say thank you to all the incredible women who have paved the way and who have advocated for themselves and for other women. Among them is Coco. So thank you, Coco, for being an amazing competitor and amazing role model. And I really hope that everything is well and you will recover soon. I also want to say Happy Women's Day to my mom, who is there in the stands. I want to thank her for being the amazing woman that she is and for helping me become the woman that I am. So, and that goes to all mothers.
Stop everything. I mean it. Put the phone down, close the laptop, cancel whatever you had planned for the next 5 minutes, because what just happened on that tennis court is the kind of moment that gets talked about for decades. The kind of moment that people ask each other about years from now. Where were you when it happened? Because it happened. And it was more violent, more complete, and more devastating than even the most optimistic prediction could have imagined. We flagged it yesterday. We told you Alexandra Eala was not walking onto that court to compete. She was walking on to collect. We told you Coco Gauff, the American darling, the reigning US Open champion, the fourth-ranked player on the entire planet, had no idea what psychological storm was about to make landfall directly on top of her. But I will be the first person to raise my hand and admit something. Even with everything I knew, even with every whisper coming out of that locker room, I genuinely did not see this level of destruction coming. I did not see a collapse of this scale. What you are looking at right now is not a scoreline. It is a crime scene. The television commentators are visibly shaken. You can see it in their faces. The American broadcasters are stuttering through their sentences, shuffling their notes, reaching desperately for comfortable corporate language that softens the blow. Words like fatigue. Words like precautionary. Words like unfortunate timing. They are constructing a fiction in real time because the actual truth is too expensive for their sponsors to accept. So let me give you the truth instead, completely unfiltered and completely uncut. Look at the top right corner of that graphic. 3 words in French that the mainstream media would rather pretend do not exist. Victoire par forfait. Victory by retirement. Coco Gauff, the face of American tennis, playing on home soil, under home lights, in front of a home crowd that adored her, packed her bag, walked to the umpire's chair, and left the match while trailing 6-2 and 2-love in the second set. She did not lose. She surrendered. And there is a profound and critical difference between those two things that I need you to sit with for a moment. She was not just beaten by a better player on that particular afternoon. Her spirit was so completely and methodically dismantled, her confidence was so thoroughly excavated from its foundation, that she decided facing one more game against Alexandra Eala was a worse outcome than the public relations disaster of walking off court in front of thousands of her own supporters. That decision tells you everything. That decision is the headline. Now let us talk about the numbers, because these statistics do not read like a tennis match. They read like something constructed inside a laboratory. Alexandra Eala landed 96% of her first serves. Read that back. 96%. The average professional at the peak of their powers, in the best match of their career, might touch 75% and consider it a historic serving performance. 65% is the standard benchmark for elite consistency. Eala stepped onto the biggest court of her life, looked directly into the eyes of a Grand Slam champion, absorbed the hostility of an entire crowd rooting against her, and proceeded to execute her service motion with mechanical perfection on 96 out of every 100 attempts. 0 double faults. 0 aces either, and that part matters more than people realize. She was not trying to overpower anyone. She was not going for the spectacular. She was constructing a cage, one perfectly placed, heavily loaded, completely unattackable serve at a time, forcing Gauff to begin every single point already scrambling, already defensive, already fighting from behind. Now cross the net and look at what was happening on Gauff's side of the court. Gauff actually served well by traditional standards. 83% first serve percentage. Historically, when Gauff lands 83% of her first serves, the match is over before it starts. Her serve becomes an offensive weapon that opponents simply cannot handle. But here is the number that stops your heart. Gauff won only 34% of those first serve points. 34%. She was launching her fastest, most aggressive deliveries, her absolute best weapons, and Eala was stepping inside the baseline and redirecting them like they were practice balls. Every bullet that Gauff fired came back harder, heavier, and more precisely aimed. Gauff committed 7 double faults in a match that lasted only 10 games before the retirement was called. 7. Her arm was shaking under the pressure so badly that she could not complete the most fundamental motion in the sport. You could see the panic spreading across her face in real time. You could see her looking up at her coaching box with the expression of someone searching desperately for an answer that simply does not exist. Then there is the run. The sequence that made everything irreversible and broke whatever remained of the American champion's resolve. Eala strung together 7 consecutive games against the reigning U.S. Open champion. 7. Gauff's maximum consecutive games won across the entire match was 1. She could never chain 2 together. She could never build even a single moment of rhythm or momentum. Eala went down 2-love at the start of the first set, let Gauff believe for exactly 2 games that she was in control, and then systematically refused to allow her another game for the rest of the night. Close your eyes and picture what that feels like from inside Gauff's head. You lose your serve and it is 3-2. You tell yourself it is fine, just a blip. Then 4-2. The crowd gets quiet. Your racket feels heavier. You step up to serve and you double fault and suddenly it is 5-2 and you can feel the entire stadium holding its breath. You swing harder. You scream louder. You try to manufacture the emotion that usually comes naturally. But every time you attack, every time you pour everything into a shot, Eala steps forward, completely composed, completely expressionless, and puts the ball exactly where your legs cannot reach. You are the U.S. Open champion, and you are being systematically erased by a 31st seed from the Philippines, who looks at you like you are a minor scheduling inconvenience between her and the trophy. That is why the forfeit happened. Not a stomach bug. Not a shoulder tweak. Not dehydration. The locker room veterans know it. The sports psychologists sitting in the stands know it. You do not retire from a match of this magnitude, on your home court, in front of your home sponsors, unless the psychological damage has already become permanent. Gauff looked across the net at the start of the second set and saw Eala standing there completely unhurried, barely perspiring, already bouncing the ball, already prepared to run back the exact same program for another full set. And something inside Gauff made a calculation. Staying on that court meant finishing with a scoreline that gets permanently burned into the history books. 6-2-6-0 against the 31st seed on home soil. That number would follow her everywhere. It would reshape the narrative permanently. So she pulled the emergency exit. She chose ambiguity over certainty. She decided it was strategically smarter to let the world question her fitness than to let the world definitively confirm what had just become obvious to every single person inside that stadium. The fallout across the tour right now is seismic. The players who were counting on Gauff to stop this run are now confronting a very uncomfortable reality. Their last line of defense did not hold. She did not go down swinging. She exited. The Rafael Nadal Academy has built something that the current structure of women's tennis has absolutely no answer for. The entire tour has spent years optimizing for raw power, for aggression, for pace. And Eala just absorbed the single greatest example of that philosophy and reflected it back with such relentless, suffocating consistency that it produced an emotional collapse in a Grand Slam champion. There are no more convenient narratives left. No more talk of hot streaks or fortunate draws or inexperienced opponents making unforced gifts. Alexandra Eala has walked through the fire and come out the other side completely untouched. She is the most dangerous player on tour right now, and the establishment has no script for what comes next. The era has changed. The question is no longer whether Eala belongs. The question is who on earth is brave enough to stand across the net from her and find out.